power comes great responsibility.
Let's go.
Thank you, Diana. Welcome to Comics League Dark. I'm your host, Jared. Let's bring in the other host of today's show.
Flame on. How's everybody doing tonight?
So today we are talking about the new Wolverine suit for Deadpool. We're talking about Bob Iger basically throwing the MCU under the bus, and we're talking about the SAG strikes. So, any preference on what you want to talk about first, JJheat?
Let's go ahead and get Iger and the strikes out of the way because I feel like that's what people are mostly going to comment about.
All right, let's talk about Bob Iger. So, what do we mean by Bob Iger's comments? Well, so he was recently...
Before we go forward, I just want to disclose that keeping Iger on board right now was the safe choice given what they have. But even still, there's just a lot of bad blood going on, and I just hope that everyone gets a piece of the pie or the best deal available.
Most likely.
I'm all for... Yeah, so I wish everyone the best, everyone who's striking, even the directors who settled. I just wish everyone gets a fair deal to create content.
Heck yeah. So, what exactly did Bob Iger say? And Hal Jordan, by Happy Friday. Well, Happy Friday to you, man. He brings up Iger should keep his mouth shut. Oh, yeah.
Just like James Gunn.
Well, yeah. Because, okay, so what Iger basically said, he said part of the MCU is collapsing is because, for one thing, evolution of the brand because you put so much content in, which honestly, he's right in that respect.
That's a fair point. That's a valid point.
But he's blaming it for he's blaming everything that's happened on that.
If we were just talking about the MCU in a vacuum, that would be a valid point. But that alone does not take precedence over the sequel trilogy or lackluster writing and creative hack writing. Excuse me.
That's good. I appreciate that. And it's also Bob Iger indicated that there's going to be way less MCU and Star Wars shows.
Which is fair. You want to actually marinate and rebuild the brand from the ground up. That's a fair assessment.
Yeah, in fact, Josh Herrera, when we talked to him last night, he said, he said a lot of the MCU projects are not only being canceled, a lot of them are being retooled. Which you would have to. Otis Attenbury says they're only hurting themselves by the strike right after COVID. This is going to hurt everyone involved. True, to a certain degree, that is
true. To a certain degree.
But ultimately, also, I personally okay, so the way I see this is that is it a good idea to strike? Honestly, yeah. With how these people are treated, honestly, I think at this point it is a good idea, particularly when Disney's grand idea to stop the strike was to make it so it's their way of handling this was to say, okay, so what we want to do is we want to 3D scan all the background actors and be able to use their likenesses forever, but the amount will pay the equivalent of one day's work.
I get that they're background actors. So you don't really have to take IP or star power into account, but you're still screwing these people over. They come here to do a job, and you're only going to pay them for one day. And if you're going to use AI and likeness like that, at least give them a commission or a royalty every time something like that is used.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. And plus, here's the thing: it wasn't even the actor's choice. I think they were going to do that anyway.
Now, I will say the directors, it's good that the directors found a way to settle. They found some common ground. But this is just a culmination of greed and bad executive decisions the past 5 to 7 years. I'll say it.
Well, yeah, and we can think of one director that was severely screwed over by a certain studio.
Let's keep Snyderverse comments to a minimum today. This is about
second Warner Brothers.
No, but I'm just saying it does affect that because here's why we cover it, because ultimately this is also trying to create a scenario in the studio system, the strike, where what happens to Snyder, what happened to him under Warner Brothers is less likely to happen.
I agree.
But in terms of what Bob Iger said, yeah, 100%. It's like, he's, again, like I said at the beginning of this time, he's half right. It is partly the diluted topics. I mean, the diluted content, because I was talking to my dad about this, because my dad goes with me to all these projects, and for me, in terms of, he's not like you and me, JJheat. So essentially, he said, yeah, it's becoming way too difficult to keep track because you have to watch every single show and every single movie. And you have to watch them really closely in order to like catch all the complicated portions of the movies. And then Otis says students have been screwing over talent since the movie business began. Yeah,
that's an objective truth, but it's never been this bad.
No, but it's kind of interesting how DC has been in this position before. Because remember Justice League Mortal?
Oh boy,
that was during a writer strike, I believe, right?
Yeah, but they ultimately settled. But by the time they found some common ground, Justice League Mortal was just scrapped. They decided to cut their losses. But yeah, a strike was going on around the same time.
Yeah, so that's where I'm really that's interesting with the whole Superman legacy thing. But I'm not going to turn this into a James Gunn thing. The purpose of this is that, okay, now let's talk about Bob Iger severely slashing content for like the MCU and Star Wars. Now, I want to war game it, JJheat. What do you think he's slashing?
Okay, anything adjacent to the High Republic, that's pretty much dead, because one, that series didn't really sell that much. It pretty much imploded almost immediately. And the fact that you had a force-sensitive rock, a rock,
that was the first mate on your starship called Vessel,
and not even that, is completely disconnected from the prequels or original trilogy because it's so far back. I know you didn't want to use the Old Republic because you didn't want to confuse the RPG, the MMO, and the fact that it's technically Legends material. But with High Republic was just a bust. That's the cleanest I could say it.
Well, yeah, of course. And then we got one more gentleman joining us.
I am Phoenix.
Hello.
Hello there.
General
Nick,
Kenobi.
Yeah, I need that clip. So what do you think about so Nick, since you just came in, I'll ask you. So we're talking about Bob Iger talking about like how the MCU has become diluted, and we're talking about the severe cuts that he is making. What do you think is getting cut of the MCU and Star Wars projects?
Well, if you're smart, you'll cut like everything.
Well, yeah, that's true.
But it's really really hard to say because just everything's been like misfiring, and honestly, I don't think Iger has the type of will that Pavlov has, so we're not going to be seeing Iger pull a Batgirl and just cancel Marvel.
Mm-hmm. No, and what's up, Pika? He says most prequels set in the past tend to suffer for the foregone conclusion syndrome.
That is true because there's no long-term tension. We know, unless you tell a self-contained story where everyone dies or it's a happily ever after, but because of the big time gap, they ultimately die off or go on their little separate adventures. So
yeah,
unless
like
you're telling
sorry, JJheat, I was talking over you.
It's okay, but unless you're telling a very self-contained story, you are going to have foregone tension.
Yeah, it's like when you're watching the prequels, it doesn't matter how good they are. You know that like Anakin's become Darth Vader in the end.
Mm-hmm. That's why I think Rogue One did that pretty well because yeah, you knew where it was going, but you still wanted those characters to live. And then Otis says, I don't understand DC and Marvel and Star Wars using source material. Well, they don't. So really, it's just like, and do you believe Iger will pull this trigger? Yeah, he's going to do it.
Iger, he tends to want to have his cake and eat it too, but the other side is not budging in any capacity.
I
So
mean, you got
unless
to
he,
remember with Iger, he's the one who got Disney into this mess in the first place.
that is true. That is true.
That's very true. So ultimately, yeah, I do think he's gonna. I don't think he has a choice. For one thing, I think Agatha is cut.
Oh,
That's what I think
Agatha's
is going to
dead.
go.
That's DOA.
I think they could legitimately take Echo as a tax write-off
potentially.
Yeah, Echo's not coming out.
because Echo should never have been made, and apparently it's not testing well. So again, yeah,
It's dead. It's dead.
dead. And I think they're going there. At least when Nick and I talked to Josh, he indicated that they're also retooling a lot of the movies. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they bring in Doctor Doom and retool Kang Dynasty out of being Kang. Not because of Jonathan Majors, but because of the fact that Kang was beaten in Ant-Man.
I mean, I think it is part of Cars because of Jonathan Majors because he's tainted good now, and they have no choice but to do that. So like,
to an extent,
Kang can afford.
Yeah, because here's the thing: they can't afford anything that's going to any amount of cost, no matter if it's going to not be a lot, because from what has been indicated by his lawyers, they have irrefutable evidence that he's innocent. So,
well, of course they say that, but
yeah, but the point is, if that's true, you're right, Nick. He is 100% tainted, and it's like they have the out there, and then we also have the writers.
I mean that guy had 100% irreparable proof that he didn't do it, and his career is still in the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
This kind of reminds me of The Flash, and I know I'm gonna get the why'd you say that name clip in a second. But even if Flash was a retooled Hamadaverse film, you still had the damaged goods that was Ezra Miller. If you had recasted him with or them, I apologize if I was inappropriate, with someone else, you probably could have salvaged this film. Like, okay, yeah, this was this was essentially a universe reset, but at least I'm not going to this movie or paying $8 to $10 for a less than ideal actor. I'm not paying for
the problem
damaged
with
goods,
the Flash
basically.
was some cost fallacy. That's really the problem with it because, like, honestly, the film should have been canned years ago.
Yeah, but remember, Warner Brothers kept it alive because they kept trying to get rid of the Snyderverse, and we all know how that turned out. And if I had Marvel, I'd be making. I'd instantly be making X-Men and Fantastic Four. That's what we all.
They their hands are tied with that one because of the contract of the actors go till 2024. That's why whenever we have seen X-Men characters, it's been the Fox characters. Like Xavier, Patrick Stewart, and Multiverse of Madness. It's Hugh Jackman and Deadpool.
Yeah.
It expires in 2024. Like, just kind of watch. Like, starting in 2025, you'll start to see like some rumblings of stuff happening and some announcements.
Yeah, 100%. So let's transition to our next topic.
Roll the clip.
Which is 100%. We are going to the writer to the wait. Oh, I didn't have it on there. All right.
Technical difficulties, everyone.
We are doing the SAG strike. So, as Tevia mentioned above, we have and now not only are the writers striking, but the Screen Actors Guild is
striking as well.
Because with the actors striking, you pretty much shut down Hollywood right then and there.
Pretty much.
Yeah, because they can't make movies without people to be in it, and then question.
Not only can they not make movies, they can't even promote them. Like you saw Zolo, the actor for Blue Beetle and Cobra Kai, saying like, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to promote the movie," blah blah blah.
Yeah, and Tevia says, so how is it going to delay everything? Well, for one thing, it's gonna destroy Blue Beetle because they can't promote the movie anymore. Well, the actors can't.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, the SAG strike is probably the best thing that could have happened to them because, I have a feeling the marketing budget was non-existent, so it was just a convenient smoke screen.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm. So, and the thing about it is, the sad part is that it did delay to Deadpool, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. But the thing about it is that
Deadpool's gonna come out. It's fine. I'm not too worried
Yeah,
about Deadpool.
come on, it's
Deadpool's
Deadpool.
fine. That's a popular franchise, and plus Ryan Reynolds has a lot of cachet. But Mike,
Like honestly, I think that's probably why they released like the set photos of Logan in the costume, because like they knew the strike was incoming and they wanted to keep like the hype going and whatnot to keep justifying it. Because now they can play like, hey, look at we released the set photos. Look at the reaction we got. You can totally keep this movie going.
oh, and look, did you see Ron Perlman threatening to burn down someone's house? Oh boy!
Huh? Somehow I'm not surprised.
Wow.
I love Ron
yeah.
Perlman, but the way he's acting,
Yeah.
the TDS hit him pretty hard. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Like a panther.
And I'm not talking about our favorite YouTuber.
Yeah.
And quick segue, Pika Shades. If you need help with your Flashpoint script, I am down for a collab.
Mm-hmm. Bob Iger is the person, but by the way, yeah. But I mean, all right. So the way I think that, for one thing, this gave the Hollywood execs a fantastic way to cancel a lot of stuff, because they can just say, okay, it's because of the strike, it's costing us a lot of money, so we can do this. But also, and we talked about this also on the live stream that Nick and I do with Josh, and I want to get your thoughts on this, JJheat. But I think that this makes the Ayer cut and Schumacher cuts instantly more likely of happening.
Oh, definitely, because you need the nostalgia. You need this nostalgia boost. You need the momentum. I can't guarantee the Ayer cut, but definitely the Schumacher cut.
Hashtag the Schumacher cut.
What? Oh yeah, hashtag yeah. I still think it's gonna happen, but a secret apparently a secret invasion he's talking about costs about $212 million.
I have nothing against Secret Invasion.
Why the frick does that cost that much?
Okay, so
no, they're still gonna run Superman Legacy. They're still gonna run Batman and Robin. They at least need to get this off the ground before they consider this a loss. If Batman and Robin flops, then you know this is dead.
No, if Superman Legacy flops, it's gonna be dead.
Secret Invasion, it's okay.
It's pretty good.
It's
not the source material, but it's passable.
Well, I'm just gonna say this right now. If Blue Beetle flops, that's gonna put like a really big question mark on Superman Legacy, because we pretty much know like Aquaman's gonna flop, and that's a disaster in the making.
With or without Amber Heard.
Yeah, but here's the thing, because here's why it doesn't make sense. Also, because James Gunn came out and made another statement. I know he keeps running his mouth, where he said that because someone asked him, because Nathan Fillion is going to be playing Guy Gardner, and someone asked about him playing Kid TDK in Suicide Squad, and he goes, DCU canon starts with Superman Legacy. But I'm like, unless you tell us firmly that this takes place in the universe, in other words, unless you have references to events in Superman Legacy, how do I know that Blue Beetle takes place in your universe? Which I know that's so if it flops, he can just say, oh, it's not really part of the universe. I've changed my mind.
Yeah, and that's a really stupid thing to say. Like, it's one thing to say that for like Flash and Aquaman, because like those are like remnants. But Blue Beetle is like a brand new character who you want to do like enough, like 2 or more sequels for it. So like why would you say that? So you're saying Blue Beetle is Elseworld?
I guess they want to make Blue Beetle a standalone in case it flops due to the strike and how the actors can't promote it. Mm-hmm. It's more damage control than anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, I with Blue Beetle, I think first off, I don't believe Blue Beetle is going to do well. I got news for you. That's not
Black
doing
Adam
well.
numbers at
even
best.
Like the best case scenario, it was like facing some really steep challenges. Like Blue Beetle is a character that not everyone's familiar with. Like even in best case scenario, this film would have done like okay at best.
If I had to make a projective comparison, Black Adam numbers, if not slightly more.
I mean, Black Adam has like the fact that Black Adam did as well as it did because The Rock was doing it. Like seriously.
Oh, and Via Earth also says, I think James Gunn lied to make people watch it like he praised Ezra. Remember when he said it was the best DC movie since The Dark Knight?
I mean, yeah. That's to be expected. You really think James Gunn is gonna trash Flash before it even comes out like that?
And then James Gunn also said he might keep Ezra. Another lie. Well, he said depends on how the Flash does. So that part was not really a lie.
I mean, like you see this all the time. Like look what happened with Ghost of 2016. Like lead up to the film, Dan Aykroyd singing its praises, but after it comes out, he was like, "Oh, it cost too much money." That blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
I get sometimes they have to say these things to generate hype, and I'm not saying this because Flash was technically a Hamadaverse film, but Flash wasn't salvageable, especially after Ezra Miller's breakdown. This was not a salvageable film.
They put too much money into this film. There's like it was too expensive to just write off.
You couldn't write it off. Just recast and delay it another year. Cut.
But they wanted to instantly shut down the DCU EU. So what you have to understand is that Warner Brothers doesn't do what makes sense.
Yeah.
We've been dealing with that.
Went in a different direction.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And TJ says BVS Ultimate Edition is the best movie since The Dark Knight. Well, actually, there are 3 movies that are the best DC movies since The Dark Knight. That's Man of Steel, BVS, and Zack Snyder's Justice League. Speaking of Zack Snyder's Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League, I just want to advertise that tomorrow we will be doing a watch party for Zack Snyder's Justice League, where a panel of us, maybe we'll have some guests like Max from Team MME will come on and we'll like react to the movie. We'll talk about our favorite scenes as we watch it. So we'll be watching it on a separate StreamYard. We won't be streaming the movie, but we'll be streaming our reactions and our discussions.
So what you're saying is, we'll use the old ways.
Yes.
Ready the Armada.
All you had to do is ask. I have the clip. Hang on.
And we will stop at nothing to possess it.
I mean this.
Anti-life is found, Assad, and we will stop at nothing to possess it.
Oh, by the way, this will be my 14th time watching the movie.
Jesus!
So I guess you'd say 14 times the charm?
Yes, exactly. Discussion film says the Blade actor left the project. Oh, really?
So Mahershala Ali left Blade. That's yeah. Yeah, that movie's not coming out.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, yeah.
That was.
Do you
DOA.
think the Flash movie would have been better if Reverse Flash was involved in Grant Gustin period? Here's how you improve. Yes, here's how you improve the Flash. You make it so Other Barry is Grant, because you already have the precedent of them hanging out because of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then yes, reverse. Do Flashpoint. Just do the Flashpoint book. If you want to have
What's funny is, especially if like you make it like canonically it's Grant Gustin from the TV show, so like this, it's like actually that version. He went through his own Flashpoint, so
yeah.
I
so
feel like Grant Gustin made a better Wally West Flash than Barry.
Yes. What is better, Daniel Craig as Brainiac or as Lex Luthor?
I got to go with Brainiac.
I cannot see Daniel Craig being Brainiac.
Wait, you see Daniel Craig?
I mean,
Lex
sorry,
Luthor.
I'm tired. Lex Luthor. I meant I can't see him as Lex Luthor.
What about Anthony Hopkins as Brainiac?
That could work.
I can see that.
But how do you include Pandora? Pandora was not in Flashpoint.
Wait. I think Tevi is talking about something else entirely. Keanu Reeves, he could pull it off, but
no. See,
The
Maybe.
star
we
power.
don't want to let that one out of the box, though.
Yeah.
But he already has to play Constantine, so you can't.
No,
exactly.
I don't think you get my joke.
I couldn't hear it.
Oh,
So
bloody hell.
We were talking about Pandora, and I made a joke about boxes.
I still can't hear it, Nick. The Flash is out on digital in a few days. Oh boy. I think
Pandora
Nick
was at
had
the
to
end
go
of-
because of the audio. End of Flashpoint. I wouldn't bring her in. 100% would not.
Wait, Pandora. Wait, was that the villain from Trinity
I don't
War?
think she was. Yeah, she wasn't in Flashpoint. Hang on.
Yeah, she was in Trinity War. I remember that was a crossover of JLA, Justice League, and Vertigo.
Yeah, she wasn't in Flashpoint, Tabby. I'm looking at the book right now.
Yeah, Pandora was in Trinity War. She made a cameo in the film, but
she was brought in the last couple of pages of Justice League Origin. Which was after Flashpoint. She wasn't at the end of Flashpoint, and I hope they release the alternate ending of digital. There's a very low chance of that happening, but I would love that because I need that scene of him and Gal for fan edits. I need that. Check the timeline. What do you mean the time? She's not in the book, Tevia.
Okay, I think he's talking about in the trade paperback where there was like a tease for the New 52 and all these like splash pages.
Yes, but in the actual book, she's not. I have the trade of it. It's not in there.
Not in the context of Flashpoint itself, but Pandora does make an appearance in a couple splash pages of Justice League Origin. Like the
yes,
last couple
I
of
know
pages.
that. That's what I'm saying, but that's not Flashpoint. He said she appeared at the end of Flashpoint. No. That.
Okay, I know what Tevi is talking about now.
She wasn't. No. First off, that wasn't her merging. She was just there, and she's unimportant to that story, so I wouldn't bring her in. You don't have to bring her in.
I don't even remember what Trinity War was about, but I remember Pandora playing some type of role in that story.
She was actually a central character to Trinity War because it's like the Pandora's box opens.
Huh.
But hang on. I'm going to check this out. Hang on. All right. See her merging the three timelines. Okay. And I'm looking through. Oh, yeah. She's briefly there, but she's not having any role in the book. They just show her.
Yeah, it's a brief cameo at the very end of the book.
And I want to know what would be even cooler? More Batman. Well, yeah, but it would be Thomas Wayne Batman. What's your rating of Spider-Man No Way Home and The Flash? No Way Home is about a solid 9 out of 10.
Granted, No Way Home is honest to God a nostalgia trip, but it's a better film overall.
Yeah, Flash is a solid 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 because of the CGI at the end and the George Reeves cameo. That's why it loses 3 points, is what I mean.
Yeah, the cameos were in poor taste.
Yeah, so I'm like, nah, you don't need that. So that's what I'm going with for that. In terms of, let's see, so that's high rate, and yeah, she doesn't have to be in Flashpoint because she really doesn't play any part. Even she doesn't even. It's not even her talking about the 3 timelines. It's Barry, so take her completely out.
But I do want to say this. Thawne was not objectively necessary in the story of Flashpoint. He was a red herring in there to twist the knife and the revelation that Barry selfishly broke the time barrier to save his mom. Outside the context
and brought DC in a new direction.
Indeed. But to make it a long story short, the only real prevalence that Thawne has in the context of Flashpoint is the fact that Thawne altered the death of Nora Allen, which was a fixed point. So regardless, Barry needed that tragedy to set the stage to get chosen by the Lightning, which in turn would have connected him to the Speed Force and thus become the Flash. Nora's death was a fixed point. It was always going to happen. Thawne just altered events just a bit to mess with Barry. So really, outside the context of Flash Rebirth, you could take Dawn out of Flashpoint and the core story does not change. It's just inner conflict until Barry does the right decision and undoes saving his mom. Granted, it's a solid addition. Jeff Johns, the creative team on Flashpoint, it worked well. But would I argue it's objectively necessary? No. But is it a nice touch? Hell yeah.
Yeah, I think it works great. And I think he is kind of important because at first Barry thinks it's Thawne. So you kind of need him in there.
As a red herring.
Yeah, as a red herring. He is important as a red herring. Plus, you want to have him in there so you can recreate so you can have live action Thawne go, it was me, it was you, Barry, all the time, or something like that.
Okay, Ezra Miller as Thawne, that's perfect casting. If I couldn't get Ezra Miller for that, I would have gone with the guy who played Homelander.
Well, Anthony Starr would be fantastic as Homelander.
Anthony Starr would be perfect for the role. Like, are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm. And according to Enviro Earth, the rivalry between Eobard and Barry made the Flash TV show. Yeah, it did. It was one of the cool parts of that show. So let's move on to another topic. This one's way more positive, by the way. So I just want to bring that up. Okay, so we're going to talk about the new Wolverine suit because, oh my...
I never thought I'd see the day.
Gosh.
Oh my God.
All right. So look at this handsome man.
I never thought I'd see the
first
day.
Off, we have Deadpool who's in a brighter red suit. So it's a little more with his comic suit. Then we have that.
It's not perfect, but the fact that he's in a comic accurate suit at all.
By the way, I found out that the reason why he has these sleeves is because Hugh Jackman, the actor, it is a real photo. It was posted by Ryan Reynolds himself, and there's set photos of them fighting in the suit. So this is real. But the reason why he has the sleeves is because Hugh Jackman, the actor, is very susceptible to skin cancer, so they wanted to cover him up more. Which I'm fine with that, but plus the sleeves look good anyway, so who really cares? But let me ask you this, JJheat, your thoughts upon seeing this kick-ass suit?
Like I said, I did not expect we would ever get Hugh Jackman in a live-action Wolverine. I thought the closest we get is where we briefly see the mask and the suitcase and that deleted scene of the Wolverine. So to see this in any capacity, it kind of brings a tear to my eye.
I swear, when he first shows up, can we please have in the background just for like 10 seconds?
Na.
Please, for the love. They did that when Professor X shows up in Multiverse of Madness, and when we hinted that Kamala Khan was a mutant. I'm pretty sure we can do this. And here's the question, though. Here's the part that really gets me excited, JJheat, because it's hinted. Okay, he had to go for a second, but it's hinted that the other X-Men of the Fox universe are going to be in this movie. So my question is, are they? So JJheat's back.
Sorry,
so JJheat, it's okay. So it's rumored that the other X-Men are going to be in this movie. What do you think the odds are in light of this that they're in their classic costumes as well?
Unlikely. Very unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, a lot of the X-Men star power have drastically increased to the point to where you have to pay more to use their likeness. Like Halle Berry Storm, Professor X. Again, the post Days of Future Past roster at best, because they're still relatively cheap enough to where you could make a workaround. But A tiers like Halle Berry, no, I just don't see it unless you're using stock footage from earlier films.
Now let me ask you this, Nick. JJheat.
Just call me Nick.
I'm tired. Enviro 2 has a really great question. Who would win? Oh, but he's wearing Luke Cage colors. No, that's Wolverine colors.
That's
and
Wolverine
by the way,
colors in the comics.
Enviro House. Who would win, Luke Cage or Wolverine?
You're comparing adamantium to a guy who has super durable skin. At that point, it's just a battle of stamina.
Plus, they'll do with the adamantium heals from practically anything. And Vire2 also asks, anyone here hope Mike Coulter Luke Cage returns? Yes. I think he would fit in with the MCU really well, I think.
Didn't they try to make the Marvel TV shows adjacent to the MCU, but it was thrown out by one of the executives?
They kind of did, because in Daredevil, they referenced like the invasion of New York, saying, okay, so we had aliens falling from the sky. So that's like the MCU reference. But yeah, at a certain point, they just threw that out, kind of like what they did with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
It's almost as if they were actually right. And David, our viewer David, actually brings up an interesting point on Twitter. Hey, what's up, David? We were just talking about you. I agree with you. Marvel should not be doing TV shows. That's just what I'm gonna say there, because it's obviously hurting the brand. Remember that part? Deadpool kills Luke Cage by shrinking bombs into his coffee. Yeah, exactly. Because he figures, okay, so Luke Cage's skin is invulnerable, but his insides aren't. And yeah, yes, they call the Avengers events the incident. Yeah, we did get Charlie Cox Daredevil. Yeah, so at that point, they could bring back Mike Coulter.
To be fair, Daredevil Born Again is just going to be a soft reboot.
Yeah, and they said it's not going to be anything. This Daredevil's not going to be anything like the show. And why would you admit that? Remember, I controlled a Marvel Entertainment TV division. Yeah, and he drove that into the ground. So that was that point. So let's see. In terms of like, now, what else do you think we could get in this movie? Because we're already getting Elektra too, as in this movie, as in the what's the word? As Jennifer Gardner as Elektra. Did they say Kristen or Ritter isn't in Daredevil Born Again? I don't think she's in it.
No, not that I know of. But I wouldn't be surprised if they use Charlie Cox in the place of Ben Affleck, because I don't think Ben Affleck will come back to superhero movies. I really don't.
No, but he said he was really burnt out about that, and the only person that could get him to come back is Zack Snyder, and we all know what that's up. They announced the villain for Deadpool 3. Oh yeah, that's another thing we can announce. It's Magneto.
Kind of an obvious choice, but hey.
And Tevia, they may be doing Deadpool kills the Fox universe, because if you notice in the background of the battle, there's like the big Fox Studios logo.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
What villain could Ben Affleck play? What comic book villain? That's a good question.
No, not Craven. Not Craven.
No. It's more
There's
than
not
time.
that many...
No, I'm only kidding. He would be playing another Bat character. That silence is all I need. David Hernandez is like, I think they're going to use this movie to prep for the X-Men. This could be what brings the X to you, just Deadpool.
It's meta enough.
2025 is the year where the X-Men can make their debut. Watch, the Avengers roster is going to be so crappy that at the last second, whether or not they're fighting Kang, I almost said Kang or someone else, the X-Men will show up and save the day. That's what I think could happen. And how about one of the Squadron Supreme members? Oh, Tevia, you are speaking my language, brother. And then Enviro Earth says Chris Evans, Human Torch, and Jessica Alba. Evans has said he will come back as the Human Torch. If
he just didn't want to be Captain America anymore. But Jessica Alba, I don't think she's coming back as Invisible Woman. I really don't. She did not get treated well with the Fox films behind the scenes.
And by the way, David says the new Avengers movie has to have Wolverine and Spider-Man. Otherwise, those movies are going to tank hard. Yeah, because that was the team. That was the purpose of the new Avengers. Because for you guys that don't know, back in the early 2000s, I think is when they did Avengers Disassembled. The Avengers were like the team that no one really cared about because this was pre-MCU. So Bendis came in, and this is one of the good things Bendis did. he decided, okay, so why aren't all of our really popular characters on the Avengers, our premier superhero team, like Spider-Man and Wolverine? And then the hilarious part is that for Spider-Man, Marvel would go, well, because he's a loner. And then Bendis would go, since when? There's a book called Spider-Man Teams Up with Blank. And then Sentry, I could see Sentry, watch Henry Cavill play Sentry.
And that would be such the biggest dig the Warner Brothers Discovery.
I'm telling you, bring back as many of the DC actors, but have them be the Squadron Supreme members. That would be and have Zack Snyder direct the Squadron Supreme movie. That would be the biggest FU to Warner Brothers.
I think they tried to sue if they did that.
Well, you can't because they're not using their characters.
But they're derivative copies of their characters.
If they were going to sue, they would have done that before the Squadron Supreme became a team in Marvel.
That is true.
Because they've used Squadron actually a lot, and people don't realize they just did it for Heroes Reborn, which was awesome because it turned the Marvel universe into the DC universe, which I like way better. Who is your favorite Spider-Man? That is an excellent question, Violet. I appreciate that question. My favorite is Andrew Garfield. It's actually a tie between Garfield and Tobey, because Tobey for nostalgia reasons, and Garfield because he's a more accurate to Spider-Man's personality.
I'd say the same. Tom Holland is the weakest of the three. Not because he's youngest, mind you, just because he was Iron Boy, essentially. He had to grow into being Spider-Man. Whereas
Speaking
the
of
other
Spider
two,
Boy, Dan Slott.
You've been holding that one in, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
It's just that I get you wanted to do something. You wanted to do something different other than another generic origin story. But Tom, I'm just not the fan of it. I'm just not a fan of Tom Holland Spider-Man. I'm just not. He's a kid. He makes mistakes. He keeps making the same mistakes repeatedly. And then everything comes to a head when Aunt May dies of the Green Goblin.
Mm-hmm. Andrew is the strongest actor with the Oscar nominations. Yeah, but here's the thing: Tom did fight Thanos.
A brief skirmish, and he got pimp slapped.
No, but and that's the thing. Snyder Queen and I were DMing back and forth a little while back about anti-Snyder attacking Ben Affleck's Batman because he used guns. And he goes, all you have to do is say, well, at least my Batman fought two gods and won.
2 words. Michael Keaton. 2 words. Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton hasn't fought gods.
But he has killed and used guns.
Well, yeah, that's true. Question, and then, okay, so Tevia says, question, who is your favorite Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse anime movies? Because for me, we know it's Mayday, followed by 2099 and Miles. Okay, mine is probably Miles, which says a lot because I traditionally I didn't like the character in the comics, but again, like most people, that movie like completely redeemed the character. And then and Virus says, be fair to say Tobey has had the worst career post Spider-Man.
He did fall off, but you can make the argument that Tobey kind of walked away from Hollywood after The Great Gatsby. But I will agree Tobey has fallen off career-wise.
Mm-hmm. And then Tevia just wants to be a dad so bad. Oh yeah, but who's your favorite Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse movies, JJheat?
I have nothing really against any of them for the most part, because it actually tells an organic story. It gives Miles an arc to where he's not mantle swapped or he's not just filling the void of his Peter dying. He's a kid who just wants to save his dad, regardless of the fact that burden and trauma defines a hero. The pressure, the confliction, the anguish, all that is true. And Miles just wants to save his dad. But Spider-Man PS5 or PS4, I should say, because that's the first game, Peter was in a similar situation when Aunt May and the Cure, and he ultimately chose to do the right thing. Here's the difference: Peter, both as a person and his superhero career, is mature enough to ultimately handle that situation. Miles is like 15, maybe 16 years old, so he's not going to have the maturity to handle that larger burden. Hence the point of the character arc.
Will you buy The Flash on digital? Yes,
No.
I will.
The Flash, again,
Again,
it
I
felt
like that movie.
it filled its purpose as a commercial reboot, blank slate, but they rushed it out.
They
You had
rushed
the
it. I still enjoyed it for what it was. And that's just me.
it's
That's fine.
it's decent, but it would have been a lot more if you had just recast it Ezra Miller and got rid of a lot of the baggage.
Or done the original Flash plot, which wasn't a reboot, which wasn't Flashpoint, just have him team up with Ray Fisher.
I
just
feel
think
like
that
the
could have been
reason
a lot better.
Spider-Verse stuck out is because Miles isn't competing in Peter's shadow.
Yeah.
Yes, the alternate dimension Peter is being a mentor figure to Miles, but Miles is actively trying to do his own thing, be his own Spider-Man, go through his own trials and tribulations as a hero.
Mm-hmm.
He's not competing or pulling a web of life measuring contest with the other Spider people.
It's really, and the reason for that is very simple. He is the only Spider-Man in his universe.
And Miguel O'Hara, or 2099, he's done what Miles has done. He has acted selfishly by traversing other dimensions, and it cost him. He's ultimately trying to prevent Miles and other Spider people from making the same mistake he did. One, Miguel Ferrer, God, 2099,
Miguel O'Hara.
Miguel O'Hara, thank you. Miguel O'Hara created a paradox, which is traversing to another reality where he was in order to reunite with his wife and daughter. He created a paradox which cost him both dimensions. Miles just wants to intervene and save his dad, which is a much more small scale event compared to what Miguel O'Hara did. Now, is Miguel acting on resentment? Yes. Is he in the wrong? Yes. But trying to rally this legion of spider people is just trying to compensate for Miguel's own bitterness of the situation. Taking it out on Miles isn't going to make you feel better about what happened. But that's my 2 cents.
I still hate the ending of Flash with George Clooney. Me too. Next year's has like no Cape movies. Yeah, it doesn't, which is nice when you think about it because it's going to give us a nice break.
Yeah, take a year off.
Because if there is superhero fatigue, which I don't think it is because of how the internet reacted to that, I'm just going to unsure, which is not because of how the internet reacted to the whole to the Wolverine suit. I honestly think that if you take a year off, it also makes it more likely that Superman Legacy could do decent because then people are starving for superhero content. Then James Gunn is like, here.
Definitely. And I just want to go ahead and do this right now since we're already on the topic. But given our new direction timeline video and how successful that was, I'd argue there's no real superhero fatigue. They just want better quality in their storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So you want to explain that, JJheat?
Sure. Basically, this is a part of a long-term project that really just started kind of snowballed from this one video, What If New 52 Superman Lived? And it just kind of snowballed into like 10, 15 videos where we pretty much fix all the bitterness and bad blood from New 52 and DCYOU.
Because there's a lot of like very pippy. Did Joss disrespect the white guys too? Well, yeah, he did because he disrespected Ben Affleck. He disrespected basically everyone on that set was disrespected by Joss Whedon.
Whedon is a very scummy individual.
Yeah, and because someone said his name.
Why did you say that name?
There's a reason why Joss Whedon has not been able to get work, period. Which I'm happy for because I'm convinced he is a wholly overrated director. I'll say it. He is 100% overrated.
That's a debate for another stream.
Which actually, that may be a good topic for a CLD debate. Actually, I'll get a Joss Whedon defender if there's any left.
I highly doubt it.
Highly doubt, yeah. And then I'm trying to... Yeah, people just want things good. That's it. Yeah, 100%. So In terms of in terms of like now, what do you think of Deadpool fighting Magneto?
I could see that having potential, but the Deadpool films have becoming increasingly meta. So if you just make this Deadpool kills the Fox universe, I'm all for it.
And by the way, David is thinking of ordering the Avengers Hickman Omnibus 1 and 2. I'm kind of on the fence. Anything Hickman is a good time, particularly if you're picking up the Omnibuy, because what that does is it gives you the whole story. Because here's the thing about Jonathan Hickman, which you have to understand. He is a long-term writer. He is the guy that will start laying the seeds for this final epic story where when you're able to read the entire thing in one setting in an omnibus, you appreciate it a lot more.
He's the Grant Morrison of Marvel, basically.
Yeah. Do you watch Buffy? I want to. That's the only Joss Whedon thing I haven't watched, because I watched Firefly and Serenity. I dug that. What? I watched Firefly and Serenity. Love them. I watched Avengers 1. Loved it. Watched Avengers 2. Tolerated it.
Nick is going to have a field day with that.
No, he knows. We're going to do it for a rewatch. Is it as good as New 52 Volume 1 and 2? Nothing's as good as the New 52 Justice League, but it's close up there.
Except for maybe New Direction, but that's neither here.
Except for maybe, I'm talking about in terms of comics. We haven't published it yet.
So we're making New Direction versus comics now. That has been officially confirmed.
That'd be hilarious. We make DC Comics, but good. That would be quite a hoot. So, in terms of what our last subject is going to be, I figured let's do this. Let's do a question and answer segment where you guys can ask us questions real quick. So we'll take a couple of them. So drop your questions in the chat. And is it safe to say that the DCU will become better than the MCU in the next 5 to 10 years? It has the potential. If they play their cards right, they can.
I agree, because the MCU is reaching a decline. I mean, this is really the perfect time. You have a blank slate. You have no commercial baggage, even if it was just the old regime screwing people over. But yeah, if they play their cards right and don't piss off anyone else, I think this could be decent.
And then what's the next question? The MCU has no Avengers. Yeah, it doesn't.
You can talk about New Direction verse. You can talk us about our favorite plot lines, our favorite storylines.
Whatever you guys want to ask us about. Superman Legacy, big hit or mid hit? Most likely mid hit.
Most likely mid hit, because I feel like James Gunn is going to cram a lot of world building with Gardner and setting up the Terrifics with Plastic Man and Metamorpho. The guy's doing too much. He really is. But I will.
Superman movie.
If you're gonna have this be like just brief cameos, that's fine, but don't take it away from the overall story.
Yeah. Lex Luthor's solo movie could be good, like Joker. Oh yes, a Lex Luthor solo movie. Honestly, I'm surprised we never got that. Because you could go into his origin, his childhood. You could go into him first being Superman. You could go into him like feeling like jealous and kind of emasculated by Superman, because that's really why he hates Superman, because he used to have all the power and then Superman shows up. So there is a distinct possibility. Do you guys like My Adventures with Superman? Yes, I do. What it is, I enjoy it a lot. I think
what it is, but I could see. But if you're an avid anime fan, you're going to see a lot of faults in the production of the show. Mm-hmm. If you're an avid anime fan. But for all intents and purposes, it's decent. I would argue the production's a bit cheap, but other than that, it's decent storytelling. It's not too obnoxious, and it's not really throwing anything in your face. I would say
I love where some people on Twitter were talking about how it like undid character assassination by Snyder. And I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that Superman's supposed to be cartoony. I see what you're doing there. And then how do you feel about the Reeseverse expanding? I love it, because as long as it's let me add an addendum to that. As long as it's just the Batman universe expanding, and it's not like they're bringing in their version of the Justice League.
Yeah, because certain characters you can't make on the cheap. I'd say the farthest they'd go is the Murphy's White Knight, because that's a grounded enough story to where you could make it on the cheap.
Even in that one, they brought in Superman.
That is true.
But and via Earth, this will be our last quick question of the night. Do you think Booster Gold show will succeed or flop? It depends on how they do it. If they turn it into a blue and gold show, yeah, I think it will succeed. But I mean, it really depends on how they do it. Honestly, it depends on the casting. Because if they do like Chris Pratt as Booster Gold, I think that'd be a fantastic casting.
Almost perfect casting, not gonna lie.
Because Booster Gold is pretty much DC's Star-Lord when you really get into the gritty of him. I would have cast what's his name? Felion as Blue Beetle, and then had the other guy do that. Peacemaker did well. Actually, no, it didn't. Because it was brought up that HBO Max inflated the numbers for Peacemaker to make it look more successful than it was. That's the problem with James Gunn doing all this adult humor in his shows. It severely limits the audience.
Yeah, like at some point you're doing too much. You can get away with it with the Guardians because most of the MCU are catered to, like, teenagers. Let's be honest here. And you can creep up a little bit of subtext to where they kind of get it, but they don't have enough life experience to fully grasp it. And the adults get like a cheap chuckle out of it. But with Peacemaker, he was kind of all over the place. Now, John Cena, he would have made a good. If you're going to cast Guy Gardner, you need a heel. Nathan Fillion is not a heel. Does he have the comedic chops? Yes. But the guy's not a heel. He's a babyface at best.
Yeah. Booster is supposed to be comedic. He wasn't. Yeah, 100%. I think that John would have been a good Guy Gardner. Yeah, John Cena could have been a pretty good Guy Gardner, honestly.
I can see it.
That's what I could see. And then, yeah, so we're going to go with that. So, okay, so that was the last question. Now, I have a little announcement to make. All future Comics League Dark streams are going to be at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time instead of 12:15. Just the only reason why I did the 12:15 was because of my old work schedule that I got off work at midnight. So to continue doing the show, I had to do it at 12:15. Now that I'm on a better schedule, I have the opportunity to move it earlier. So I'm going to do that because that way we're not as tired when we're in the middle of the show. So it's going to be next Friday at 10 o'clock p.m. It'll still be in the p.m., but it's going to be at 10 instead of 12. So, on that note, JJheat, where can one find you, and what have you got coming out on the channel?
Well, you can find me at JJheat75 on Twitter, JHeatBlaze on YouTube, where we recently reached over 160 subscribers. The algorithm's kind of screwing with me, but I was able to get a picture of it to prove it, so we are at officially 160. I'm counting it, and I am planning a celebration stream. I am counting it. Also, I'm going to start the Swole Tour playthroughs again, starting with Sith Warrior. I'm just going to completely start where Sith Warrior left off. And New Direction Suicide Squad, I might end up calling it Task Force X. I hadn't decided yet. But if you've seen the timeline video I mentioned, you know somewhat what that's about. But we will discuss that at a later date, probably next week. And then after that, definitely before the end of this month, you're going to get God Killer 2, Gods Among Us.
Yes. Let's choose a Comics League tomorrow. And by tomorrow, I mean Saturday, so probably today. At 12 p.m., we will be doing a rewatch of Zack Snyder's Justice League, the full 4-hour movie from start to finish. We'll have a panel on. We'll have guests. We'll have a lot of fun talking about that. On Sunday, Wes from Thinking Critical is coming back on the channel, and Drew from Comics Elite is coming on the channel to review his book, Born of Blood, which is super dope. And in terms of other pieces of content, we have lots of collabs coming up and lots of really fantastic content, including Indie Wednesday, where I discuss Truth, Justice, and the American Way by Gabe Al-Taib, a longtime friend of the show, Gabe. And in terms of Monday, I may just do a video talking about why Batman's a hypocrite. But on that note, everyone, stay heroic, and I will see you in the next episode. See you later. Bye-bye.